Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. And there's a lot going on in the tropics, but today's video is going to be on the Western Pacific. And for the past months now, it's been really quiet and abnormally quiet. And the reason for this was because this high pressure here has been just over the whole Western Pacific, and that's just creating more sinking motion. It's just creating more a sinking motion, so kind of suppressing the convection. So this is basically anything that tries to form just gets suppressed, and then it just fizzles out, and dry air and that hasn't been helping. So and wind shear has been pretty high coming in from the west, the prevailing westerly the prevailing westerly jet has just been coming right through the Western Pacific and coming through the Philippines, and nothing's being able to form. But it looks like high pressure is going to start to drift up more north, and the MGO is starting to come into play a little bit now as well. So we could be looking at a typhoon outbreak in the Western Pacific, and it looks like we could get some really serious storms in the coming weeks. So if we look at the GFS first here, so if we go into the weekend and then into early next week, you can see some systems starting to form. So you can say these two here, which are the main one here, and in the middle is looking pretty good, and the relative humidity looks pretty good as well. So there's not much dry air around it, so it can really get act together really quick, and ocean temperatures are really warm as well. And also you notice here towards northwestern Luzon, you could see another system trying to form. This one I'm finding more hard to form because it looks pretty sporadic, and the vorticity looks spread out, so it'll be harder for it to tighten up and cluster together. But I do expect it, because it have time over water, it will eventually tighten up and bring all the cluster of clouds together, and then the low levels of circulation etc will start to stack, and then we'll eventually see this the rapid intensification, and all of them could rapidly intensify. And what we're gonna have to watch out is for these two here. So obviously the one in the storm in northwestern Luzon, and the one right here just in the middle of the Pacific could cause really strong winds, and the both could make landfall. But if we go on into next week, in that you can see the middle one's really taking off. It's at 955 millibars, but don't take the pressure too literally at this stage, because no model can really predict what the intensity or how strong they're going to be. But it looks like we're seeing a trend for the past days, and now the GFS has been picking up on these systems, and the pressure has been really low each time, and the landfall's getting more and more, well, not certain, but more more certain. But we're not sure if it's going to stall here, or if it's going to just come straight through and hit southern Korea, or just hit these islands and then go into Japan, or hit the islands and turn south. We don't know yet. It just depends on where the high pressure stands. But as we go on here, so the one I'm going towards the likes of China is really strong too. So if you're around that area, it looks like you could see a pretty intense typhoon, and well, going to the GFS, it's going to tighten up quickly and then intensify. But I don't know how quickly it'll get the chance to do that, because as I said, the vorticity looked quite stretched. So it'll take time for it to tighten up, and then for it to all stack together, and then once they all get stacked, then it can intensify. So I don't know how strong this will be, but I think it could be at least a typhoon, for when it makes landfall potentially in China. But it could be higher if it gets its act together really quickly. Then I think it could be anywhere between maybe a major typhoon, and then because it's the Western Pacific, you can't even rule out a super typhoon category 5. You just can't rule anything out really in the Western Pacific. The Western Pacific is the king of all basins that can just make storms just intensify, unprecedented strength in sometimes when the Western Pacific gets really active, it can just push out just multiple Cat 4s and Cat 5s at once, over and over again. And the only basin that can really do that is the Western Pacific, in my opinion. So the one in the middle as well is really strong too. It's the stronger out of all of them, and this is the one I'm really concerned about. It looks like it's going to be a very large system, and probably the strongest system out of all of them. So as we go on into towards the 8th into the 9th of August, it's starting to turn towards these islands here. And if you're in, well, like if you're anywhere between like Japan and all these islands, I don't think Taiwan's gonna get affected. Well, maybe if it comes in and then takes a like southerly track, how like one of the GFS runs done yesterday, then I would say Taiwan. So I would just say from anywhere between northern Taiwan to southern Japan, if you're anywhere between there, you have to keep an eye on this, because it just depends where this high pressure sits, and if it sits more towards the north and the west and it's a lot stronger, it could stall it, then it could force it down southwest. Or if it's more to the north and to the east, it could just come straight through and then hit Japan. So it not Japan and like southern Korea. So it just depends like where this like high pressure sits here and how strong it'll be. But it looks like it's gonna like most likely hit these islands here. But I think there's a reasonable chance it could hit Japan as well. But I wouldn't rule Taiwan out really. So this could be a serious storm, and I think this could be a super typhoon potentially. Like, so I think like this one here has the potential, and even like this one. But as I said, I'm not sure about that one because of like how stretched out the vorticity is and how like lopsided it'll be at the start. So how quickly it'll like organize itself, it'll determine the strength, in my opinion. So it looks like it's going to go through the northern of the islands and then go straight into the northeastern Japan as looks like a major typhoon. Especially the islands could like get maybe a super typhoon, like a Cat 4, Cat 5. I wouldn't even rule out a Category 5 for this. So it looks pretty serious. And then as we go on, it just goes into Japan, and then it just comes back into the Western Pacific, and it just fizzles out, and then we just got like just general areas of like low pressure and just general like monsoon type conditions in the Western Pacific. So it looks like it's going to get like more active in the coming days and weeks. If we look at the wind, like 850 HPA height wind in knots, yeah. So basically it's just like how so anything above like 64 knots is classed as a hurricane. And obviously if you get towards the top end of the scale, and it gets towards Category 5. So as we go on into next week, when these storms form, you could say they're all like really intensifying, especially the middle one. It could be pushing towards a Category 3 at this stage, Category 4. And as we go on, it's making a push towards Category 5, it looks like, by this stage. And then the hurricane force winds, it looks like, lasts a long time into Japan. And then it just like fizzles out, and then we've just got just a general low pressure monsoon conditions in the Western Pacific, as I said before. If we look at the relative humidity here, so obviously the more green and turquoise it is, the more moist the atmosphere is. So if the area of circulation is surrounded by loads of green here, then that means it can really just organize itself, and then it could allow like lots of convection. And then obviously the more brown it is, the more suppressed the air is, and like it just can't organize, and then it'll just kill storms off. So as we go on here, as you can see, like all of the systems here just look really intense and just surrounded by loads of moisture, especially the middle one. It's just basically blocking off all like the dry air from injecting into the core. And then as we go on, it looks like it'll be an annular system as well, because as you can see here, like the dry air is like circulating around the system. It's not really affecting the internal core. So this tells me that this one here, that could affect the islands in the likes of Japan. It'll be more of an annular system, so it won't have like much of a like spiral bands really. It'll just be like a circular storm in that, and like obviously the eye and all that, and like annular storms tend to have bigger eyes as well. So we could see an annular like storm if this one comes off anyway. The western storm is just like full of like moisture, so that won't have problem with dry air, it looks like. In this one as well, doesn't look like it'll have internal problems with dry air, but we could get like maybe slight injections of dry air, maybe just like small amounts into the core, and then this could cause eye wall replacement cycles. So this could mean that this storm here could get multiple eye wall like replacement cycles, because although not affected in the core in a minute, but it's hard to like to show and find detail. But I could say some like tiny like bits of dry air could get injected into the core, which could disrupt the eye wall. Then that could cause eye wall replacements when it weakens, and then the outer, and then eye contracts, and then the outer eye will closes into the inner eye wall and takes over and becomes a dominant eye wall, then it'll obviously like re-intensify again. But then if we go to the wind shear map here, so as we go on into next week here, like when the storms form, it looks like they're surrounded by loads of high shear, but you have to remember these storms create their shear as well, so you have to like look past that. But to me, it looks like the shear is between 10 to 15 knots, so more neutral to favorable. So it doesn't look like shear is going to be a problem at all for any of these storms, and looks like nothing's really in the way, it looks like anyway. Look at the ECMWF, so all the systems are developing as well, apart from this one into the northeast, strangely enough, and it's not as intense, and the western one doesn't really perform at all. I think the ACM has been performing a bit like poorly with how intense the storms have been recently. I don't think it's been forecasting it right, but then sometimes the GFS has been like overdoing it sometimes. So I think it'd be more towards the middle. I think it could be being potentially a Cat 3, Cat 4 typhoon. Category 5 can't be ruled out either, especially because it's Western Pacific. If we look at the sea surface temperature anomalies based on average here, like just look how warm the Western Pacific is compared to average as well. It's just majorly above average, and where the islands are as well, it's slightly above average there. But where it starts off its life, it looks like it's between 1 degrees to 2 degrees above average. So there's plenty of fuel like for cyclones and typhoons to develop. You can see how where like this typhoon will form like the main one, like at the islands, it's going to stop its life at 31-32 degrees. And anything about if the temperature is anywhere between 10 to 26 and higher, that's enough to support a typhoon or hurricane. And just look how like warm they are. It's like 30 to 31 to 32. It's a good like 5 degrees plus more than it needs to be. So that's quite concerning as well. So low shear. The relative humidity looks really favorable, like lots of moisture, and it just looks like nothing's really in the way, unfortunately. So if you're anywhere between the islands and Japan and South Korea, maybe even Taiwan, obviously China for like this sort of system, you're gonna have to keep an eye on the forecast for the coming days and in the coming week, because it looks like it could be quite serious. If we look at 94W here, like this is the typhoon that can make landfall on these islands here. If we look at the JAPS here, it's obviously taking a more northerly track, and like some of them take it like away from the islands into Japan. But if I go here quickly, I don't think I've got the GFS ones. Yeah, if I go quickly into the GFS, yeah, if I go into the GFS ensembles here, they're taking more of a northerly track, and then towards the northwest. Obviously, like there isn't like many ensembles yet. We'll have to wait, but it looks like the general threat for landfall is like southern Japan and these islands, yeah, and maybe like northern Taiwan's gonna have to keep an eye on it. Okay guys, so that's it for today's update. I hope you found it informative. Please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification so you don't miss another upload. And there's also a system that could form in the Atlantic in like the coming days and like the coming week as well, and that could pass through the Bahamas and could become a hurricane as well. So I'll be doing an update on that. Then tomorrow I'll be doing another update on this, or like maybe the Atlantic storm that could form. So there's a lot going on. So I'll be doing updates on these potential hurricanes and typhoons. So please like, subscribe, and I will be doing another video tomorrow.